Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. Just got back from a long trip to Turkey, and I want to provide you some travel tips that will hopefully help you when you're exploring this country. It seems to be one of the countries that is big on a lot of travel lists here in 2024 and beyond. So I want to be able to get you some useful information that you can use. And then also, if you've traveled to Turkey and if you have other travel tips that I've missed, please leave them in the comment below. So here we go. Let's talk about Turkey, and let's talk about money and credit cards. So Turkey uses the lira. So cash is king, lira is taken everywhere. There were some of our tours that preferred lira versus credit card. Of course, you can pay for many of your tours, Viator and Get Your Guide. You can do those through credit card. But if you're doing some private tours, some of those were cash only and they wanted lira. So just want to make sure that you are aware of that. If you have the opportunity to order some lira from your bank and have that before your trip, that's great. If not, there are many bank ATMs throughout major cities: Antalya, Istanbul, Kayseri, Konya, Efes, you name it. As you're traveling around the country, you will be able to get liras if you choose to. I will say in a couple of isolated incidents, if we wanted to, we could use euros, but that was very hit or miss, where someone in line, let's say at a street food, said, hey, can you take euros? And the vendor said yes. So I would not anticipate that. I would make sure that I have liras with me to be able to pay for things, especially things like street food items and some of the souvenir shops for sure. Now, of course, let's talk about credit cards, for accommodations, your flights, transfers, most of your tours and things that you want to do. Most of your restaurants and shops will take credit cards, but I want to make sure that you realize this. For those of you that have American Express, you Amex users, it's not as easy to be able to use the credit card there. It's more hit or miss, to be honest with you. We found that probably 10% of the places that we wanted to use it actually allowed us to. Visa and MasterCard, absolutely, and no problem. So please make sure, if you are going to be traveling, and if you're really big on using your Amex card, to potentially have a Visa and MasterCard as your primary card, because in Turkey, if you're going to be using a credit card, you're probably going to be using that much more than the Amex card. So that is cash and credit cards in Turkey. Let's get to the next thing, airports. When you're flying into Turkey, you won't experience this, but as we flew from destination to destination within Turkey, just want to make sure that you're aware of this. At all of the airports in Turkey, you'll have security as soon as you get into the arrival hall. So as soon as you walk through the doors, there'll be people lining up to go through a security checkpoint. And then once you're done with that, then you can either go get to the gate, or the ticket counter, check your bags, get your boarding pass, or if you already have your boarding pass, then you're going to go to the second security checkpoint, which most of us would know as a normal security checkpoint in airports across the world. So just to make sure that you're doing 2 checkpoints for security, so that if you take your belt off, or if you're putting certain things like your laptop out, things of that nature, you may, if you can keep it out, realize that within a few minutes of that first security checkpoint, most likely you're going to be going through security again. And then you get to your gate, and it's like every other airport. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. 2 security checkpoints at each airport. The next one comes up often, and you see this in videos, and people make comments on it. Is Turkey safe? And I will say that we've been in Istanbul, so one of the largest cities in the world. Antalya, we've been to Kayseri and Cappadocia, been to a number of places and some historic sites and ancient sites throughout Turkey. Had no issues, and there was no thought of having to look over our shoulder because someone's paying attention to us. You need to have situational awareness when you travel internationally, and that goes for every country. But when we were using public transportation, didn't feel like anyone was going to try to pickpocket or take my wife's purse. So you should feel very comfortable. It felt like being in any other major city, walking around. And everyone kind of looked like they were from everywhere else too. So you have a huge mix of locals and tourists. I wouldn't worry about the safety other than when you do travel, have situational awareness and just be aware of your surroundings. I will say we were not out late at night in Istanbul or Antalya. So, there may be a situation where depending on where you are in those cities late at night, you may be cautious. But during the day, we didn't feel like there was any threats or any imminent issues that we had to be aware of. So hopefully you will feel safe when you're going to Turkey. The next that I'm going to come up with is, I think maybe more of an obvious one, dressing appropriately. So Turkey in and of itself is a secular country. So it's not like all women have to wear like a full hijab and guys wearing long sleeve shirts and dress pants or jeans. That's not the case. When we were walking the streets, it looked like we could be in a city in the United States, a city across Europe. It didn't really look any different. Yes, there were a faction of people, females that were dressed in full hijab as they were walking around, but they didn't stand out, meaning there were so many tourists and locals dressed like we were, t-shirts and jeans and tennis shoes, that you didn't really notice. So I just want to make sure. I will say, if you're going to be visiting mosque, if you're going to go to Istanbul, you're probably going to do the Blue Mosque, Hagia Sophia. You might do some other places. Making sure that if you're a guy, we had long sleeve shirt on and long pants, no shorts. So that would be a way to respect the religion, the culture, and make sure that you don't get pulled out of the tour and everything will be okay. On female, again, long sleeves, covering shoulders for sure and probably to the forearms, longer pants or a long dress, having a headscarf so you're covering head as well as chest area. So again, those are the common ways and the appropriate ways to be able to dress to where you can get access to some of the religious sites and still being respectful to the culture. And then take the headscarf off once you leave the mosque. So that's dressing appropriately for Turkey. I will say, if you're in Istanbul and Antalya, Cappadocia, those are different climates. So Antalya is going to be warmer, so you might be more t-shirts and swimsuits and flip-flops. Cappadocia can get cold. There might be a little less humidity when we were there, so it was a little warmer during the day, a little cooler at night. Istanbul did have some humidity, so you may want to dress, have a light jacket depending on the time of year, depending on where you're going throughout Turkey. But again, just make sure you dress appropriately, especially going to mosques. Next up is a practical matter, power converters. Turkey uses the EU. If you have a power adapter, if you're coming, let's say, from the US, often you will have an adapter that is for the UK, for the EU, and the Turkey is the EU. It's like the two prongs, like a snake teeth, and so you can use that without having to buy an extra converter just for Turkey. So make sure that you're aware of that. And then lastly, this is something that I thought was kind of hilarious a few days into the trip. It's coming. Heard that phrase from everybody. Got into the airport in Istanbul. Our transfer, it's coming. About a half hour later, it's coming. And finally got there. Where I'm going with this is nothing's on time in Turkey. And even like public transportation, looking at schedules and whatnot. Now, is it off by a lot? No. In some cases, we had some tours that started a half hour late, or we had transfers that picked us up late. But I would make the assumption, if you're going to be doing a tour, you have to roll with it, and just whenever the tour starts, If you're really regimented and you like having a planned schedule and a timed itinerary on where you're going to be doing things, I would recommend that if you're doing like transfers to and from airports, hotels, get them to pick you up early. So let's say if you were going to get a 5 p.m. transfer someplace, ask them to pick you up at 4:45, because most likely it will be closer to 5 o'clock when you would get picked up. So think of that. Maybe when you hear the "it's coming," realize it's going to be late, and look for maybe, when you can, booking something a little sooner. So that's just, it's part of the culture. But "it's coming," heard that from people at the hotel, people at the airport, every transfer company, and even a couple of our tours. "It's coming," or "we'll be starting soon." That's just the way things are in Turkey. It's a little more casual, and I think not as regimented as maybe some other countries are. So if you're someone that is really into regiment and gets frustrated, try to relax and take a deep breath and realize that few things will start on time when you're traveling in and about Turkey. So I hope these are good travel tips for you and practical. Please, if you've been to Turkey and some of these resonate, leave a comment below. If you have some other travel tips about Turkey that I didn't hit, please put those in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you so much for watching the videos, and enjoy your travels.